The New York Knicks knocked out the Pistons last night, so they are now set to face the Boston Celtics. As we look at this matchup, Logan, how do you think the Knicks will have to approach dealing with this Celtics offense that is so potent, and do they have any chance of slowing them down?
The regular season track record would suggest that this team doesn't. Boston, in their matchups in the regular season against the Knicks this year, put up an offensive rating of 132.7. And one of the biggest keys and things that I'm looking at for the Knicks in this series to come out on top or to just have a chance of upsetting the Boston Celtics is if the Knicks defense can overcome the two glaring defensive liabilities. Carson and I have talked about this ad nauseum when we bring up the Knicks throughout the regular season and into the playoffs, and it has been the reason why we couldn't consider the Knicks to be like real deal title contenders, is just the consistency and the ceiling of this defense. It's really hard to build a great team defense around guys like Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns when they're starting as a point guard, when he is your point of attack guy, and then your de facto rim protector, Karl-Anthony Towns, at the 5. And if there's anything we know about this Celtics offense, it's that they have two superpowers. It's the volume and efficient three-point shooting, which I think the Knicks can try to mitigate, but they're also elite mismatch attackers. And so if Jaylen Brown were to get that switch on Jalen Brunson, food. Jayson Tatum gets that switch on Jalen Brunson, food, right? Anybody. Brunson's a glaring defensive liability. If they make Karl-Anthony Towns defend in space or defend pick and rolls, like, it's a problem. Like, it's really hard to overcome that. So I think they should play more Mitchell Robinson, Carson. I don't know if that entails like more of a double big lineup, because I think that you're going to run into problems with that too, where both of them are having to defend in space, or Cat's going to have to be more on the perimeter. There's not an easy answer guarding Boston. Boston likes to force guys to switch, likes to get those mismatches. They like to spread defenses out and attack in space. And it's really hard. I think that Anunoby and Bridges can disrupt Tatum and Brown a little bit. I actually think that they match up pretty well against their star guards. But to me, it's about how well Brunson can match up on these mismatches and how much Cat can defend well in space. But like I said, I'm going to try to mitigate that, I think, by trotting out more Mitchell Robinson and trying to play a little more physically, man. I just think the Knicks are going to have to be more physical. I think they're going to have to win on the glass. They're going to have to try other things, because I think that I don't really see like the Knicks convincingly slowing down this Boston offensive attack. I think it's easier said than done, and I think it's you hope that you try to make life difficult on their shooters. You hope that Kristaps Porzingis has a down series, but there are just personnel limitations that I think the Knicks are going to really struggle to overcome in this matchup.
I really do not think going double big is the answer for the New York Knicks in this series. I just think Boston has way too much shooting and skill and speed out in space, and if you have two true centers on the floor, they are going to exploit that repeatedly. And if they want to match your size, then they have a way better double big look that they can throw at you with Horford and KP, and they'll still have all of that elite perimeter skill and shooting around them. So to me, that's not the answer, but the thing is, there isn't an answer. Like you mentioned, Celtics were 4-0 against the Knicks this year with almost a 133 offensive rating and a plus 17 net rating. Like, they absolutely kicked the Knicks' ass. And the reason for that is they are incapable of getting stops in this matchup. Like, the Celtics offense might as well have been built in a lab to exploit the Knicks' defensive weak points. To be fair, the Celtics offense is just great in a vacuum, and the Knicks defense has a couple of clear limitations in a vacuum, but it's the Celtics' ability to relentlessly target the two guys you mentioned, Logan. When they ran pick and roll involving Jalen Brunson this year, Boston generated 1.29 points per possession. That's a 129 offensive rating in the half court. You talk about how if Tatum or Brown get Brunson on a switch, then he's cooked. But even more significant is all of the advantages that the Knicks concede trying to prevent those guys from getting that switch. And when they call up Brunson's man to set a screen, you can't blitz the ball handler, especially with Jayson Tatum because he's so good as a playmaker. But there's so much shooting around them. And if it's Derek White screening and then popping, like, there's not a much worse shot that you can concede as a defense than a Derek White open three. So you're not going to be able to put two on the ball. What they're going to resort to for the most part, because they also feel like they can't switch, is having Jalen Brunson show a lot. But that means that the pull-up three is going to be there for Jayson Tatum a lot if Brunson shows a little bit too briefly, or if he stays on the ball for a little too long, then that pass to the popping guard is going to be there. And you're talking about an elite shooter getting a great look from three. So every time that Brunson is involved in the action, New York is basically screwed. Like, they are just picking their poison, and they both really are bad options, whatever they choose to do. And then when Brunson's just defending the ball handler, like even if it's just Derek White running pick and roll with Kristaps Porzingis, Brunson's screen navigation sucks. He's getting left in the dust, or because he's a bad screen navigator, he's trying to go under screens and he's letting up wide open threes to like a Derek White. You just cannot have that happening. So they are going to target Brunson over and over and over again in this series, and I think they are going to get great shot after great shot out of it. I would definitely put Brunson on Drew Holiday over Derek White. We've seen him matched up with both of them. I just think White is a more imposing offensive weapon in basically every way. As a shooter, he's more dynamic as a ball handler and as a playmaker at this point. Just more of an offensive weapon, but you're still not going to be able to hide Brunson. Like, they're still going to use Drew as a screener over and over if they do that. And all of the same fundamental weaknesses are there for the Knicks defense. And then you have the Karl-Anthony Towns problem. When Boston involved Cat in pick and roll this year, they generated 1.22 points per possession. So still astronomically great offense. What the Knicks are going to do most likely is have Cat playing in like a decently high drop. But if Tatum's pull-up three is on, then you're cooked. Like, he will walk into those pull-up jumpers over and over again. Plus, Cat's not a good drop defender. So, like, even if Tatum is trying to get more downhill, Cat's not going to offer much resistance at the rim. He's not good moving his feet in space. And since he's going to be playing, again, in not a deep drop, but a higher drop, like, there's opportunities for Tatum to blow by him if he gets a good runway going downhill. He's just not a good pick and roll defender. And maybe the most problematic aspect is, like, you have Cat and drop. Kristaps Porzingis is going to kill you with the pick and pop game. And
I mean, maybe. I mean, he was pretty shit in this first round.
He was, and the shot was just off, but this is a much better matchup for him, and unless his shot is just, like, freakishly off, this dude was a 40% three-point shooter in the regular season. He was the best pick and pop big in basketball. This is a matchup in which he is going to get phenomenal looks from beyond the arc, and he destroyed the Knicks last time they play. And specifically, he's just a nightmare matchup for Cat because Cat isn't built to guard in space like that. So if it is the pick and pop game, if it's KP punishing Cat for overhelping because he's such a weapon from beyond the arc, if it's him punishing Cat for not being active enough in transition, giving him a little too much space, like, he is going to get some great looks from three, and I think this should be a monster KP series offensively. I understand how much he struggled last series. That was a very different matchup, and as long as he finds his outside shot, he's going to get the looks that he needs to kill the Knicks as well. So I just think everybody is going to feast offensively in this series for Boston, and they just have way too much shooting, and it's way too easy for them to exploit Cat guarding in space. You talk about OG doing a great job on Jayson Tatum. I think that he does, but if I'm Tatum, I might not isolate OG once in this entire series. Like, why would I do that? I'm going to call up Brunson's man.
I just swing it to Brunson. I just swing it to Brunson's man.
Or you bring him into the action over and over again. So if you do that, you're going to get great shot after great shot. And I don't think that McCall or Josh Hart are good defenders on either of the Jays. I think that they're too small to cause problems. Jayson Tatum cooked McCall this year. OG does a great job on both of them, but one perimeter defender is not going to be enough in this matchup to cover up for a couple of major weak points against an offense that has so much ball handling, so much shooting, so much size that, like, everybody on the team can exploit those defensive weak points in their own ways. It's just too much to overcome.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm taking the Celtics in this series. I don't agree that Porzingis. I'm not ready to just pencil in the fact that Porzingis is going to have a great series. I mean, he looked really fucking bad against Orlando.
Logan a 180 on KP. Logan went from being the highest on KP to
he had an excellent regular season. All I'm saying is I'm just not. He was bad last series, and all I'm saying is it's
absolutely.
I'm going to prioritize and take more seriously the recent sample size that you have given me moreover than the. Like, don't get me wrong. I know what Porzingis is on an average in the regular season, and I know what his baseline is. All I'm saying is the last 2 weeks of basketball have been really bad. And so basketball is very much a rhythm sport. It's like for a lot of these guys, if your shot's going, normally it's going to translate and you're going to stay hot. So I'm just going with the trends and saying he's been on a cold streak, and I need to see him snap out of it in a game. And it was. I mean, it was at least like the last game was the best one that we've seen from KP, and the reason why was because he started rolling hard to the basket and getting easy looks instead of settling when his jumper was off. And so it's like I just need to see it before. But I can see it. I can see anybody on Boston having an amazing series. That's why it's such an uphill battle for the Knicks, because I feel like the Knicks can't disrupt Boston the way Boston can disrupt them, and so it's way more important that the Knicks can match that firepower offensively. And I think they have the skill to do it. I just don't think it's going to be enough. And what I mean by that is, like, hypothetically in a given game, Cat could have an awesome offensive game and be the second best player in a game. Brunson could very well be the best player in a single game with how he plays. Anunoby and Bridges can go off, but it's like the Celtics just have more margin because of the elite defense. So another key, I think, for the Knicks to get this done, I think it is Jalen Brunson being the best player in this series, being offensive number one that we've come to know and love with Brunson. The issue with that is the Celtics have a myriad of guys that they can throw it to Brunson to make life difficult on him. Like, if it's JB, if it's Tatum, if it's Holiday or White, like, it is a hellish matchup, and I think it's reflected by the fact, these aren't bad numbers, but Brunson's at 27-5 in the regular season, really, really efficiently, but the Celtics don't help off a ton, and so you're able to limit some of Jalen Brunson's playmaking, even if he's killing you in isolation, and so that limits some of his value. And then I think this is going to be a tough matchup for Anunoby, and I think this is going to be a tough matchup for Bridges and Cat to just manufacture easy offense, again, because Boston is so elite at guarding in single coverage. So I am going to take the Celtics pretty convincingly in this matchup. I think it's really uphill for the Knicks, but I disagree with the Robinson thing, Carson. And here's my thing. I don't disagree with the points that you're making about why Robinson could be a bad stylistical matchup. I don't think the Knicks have a good answer for the Boston offense. And I think it is very problematic when you have three glaring defensive points that the Celtics could exploit on the floor at any given time. If it's Brunson and Cat in isolation, or if it's Robinson in space. My thing with Robinson is I know how physical he is, and I think it's just more important that the Knicks try to go towards a lineup or a player that's going to give them an advantage in one area. And I see that with Robinson and the fact that I think Robinson can anchor the glass and can at least win them some extra possessions on the boards. And I think that's just a little bit more important to me than... I don't think there's a good answer for the Boston offense. And so I see a tangible advantage by having Robinson there on the glass. You think...
What are you doing with Karl-Anthony Towns when Mitchell Robinson is on the floor out there with him? Because I think that's
I'm hoping
worse for Cat offensively, and this is not a series where he can play the four defensively at the level that we've seen from him
because previously. You're saying that Tatum's going to be at the four in most of these minutes?
They won't put him on Tatum, but they might have to put him on Jaylen Brown. Like, they have to put him on somebody who he can reasonably play
I'd be more okay with. That would be the one. I would put him on JB and I'd give him a cushion.
Yeah. I still don't feel good about that. I still don't feel good.
Dude,
about
I don't feel good.
Jaylen
I'm just saying,
Carson,
I think we're going to be a game or two deep into the series, and the Knicks are going to be desperately in scramble mode, saying, what adjustments can I make? And this is one that I would explore because I think Boston's going to roll in this series. Like, I'm trying to come up with counters or something that the Knicks could do to counteract this team. Boston's a juggernaut, though. I mean, we are literally... We're trying to beat Thanos right now, man.
Yeah, I can't knock them for trying stuff. I just think that all of Boston's perimeter players are too skilled, too good at shooting, too quick to put Cat on them and have him like roam off or play off them at all. They'd make him guard on guard screens. Like, I just think it'd be scary for Cat having to be actually matched up.
So your best recipe is
any of the Celtics perimeter players.
It's hard out there with them. So how much burn are you giving a guy like Rob in the series? Is he even a factor to you?
I'm probably playing him basically in the non-Cat minutes. I would not be inclined to play a lot of double big looks, and I think that Mitchell Robinson is a good player, but so is Josh Hart. I think Josh Hart is a better player, so like if I'm giving him 33 minutes and Mitch is out there getting 15, that works for me. I don't think that they need to try to force the issue because this just isn't a team that you're going to succeed having two relatively slow-footed bigs against. Mitch can guard in space more capably than Cat, but Boston is just built to exploit teams that are lacking foot speed. And if you can't contain the ball against them, you're just totally fucked, man, because you're going to be bleeding wide open catch and shoot threes. And that's when this team is at their absolute best. And that's where I worry the Knicks would really, really struggle to contain the ball at all if they have two centers on the floor. Really, I think the only way that Boston's offense slows down at all in this series is just poor outside shooting, because they're going to be getting a lot of great looks from three, as we've talked about. If they can't make them, then all right, their offense maybe won't be as potent, but they're a great shooting team. Like, that's not something that you're ever going to be able to bank on. On the flip side, I do think the Knicks offense will do fine in this matchup. Like, Brunson versus the Celtics this year gave him 27 a night on almost 67% true shooting. He'll get his. He's too good not to, and I was just raving about his floor as a scorer. His ability to consistently get into the paint and then dazzle you with his great shot making from floater range with those short jumpers to get to the line at a good rate. Like, because he is so consistent in getting to those spots and because he has such great endurance as a scorer, he is going to probably put up close to 30 points per game in this series. The thing is, Holiday and White both do a really good job on him, and they are going to make him work. This is what Brunson said about Asar after last series. Like, Brunson's going to get his, but he gave props to Asar for making him work. Asar really, really made him work. That's what I think he's going to run into again in this series, and the efficiency just isn't going to come as easily. He's going to have to work a lot harder than the Celtics are going to have to work on the opposite side of the ball. For Cat, I think that he could have a pretty good offensive series. I actually thought that he was great in their last matchup. He was doing a really nice job of bullying switches in the exact way that I like to see from Cat, where he's catching the ball with good post position. He's back to the basket, back down, get to his hook shot, keep it simple. That was really effective. And he can exploit KP in a couple spots in the same way that KP can exploit him, given that they're both slower footed bigs. So as a popper, he might get some good looks. Out in transition as a trailer, he might get some good looks from deep. But still, he's going to have to work harder than the Celtics offensive pieces are, vice versa, when they target him, just because, like, everybody involved in this equation, the perimeter defenders, the interior defenders, are significantly better for Boston, and they don't have those weak points defensively. So it's just really, really hard for me to see how the Knicks make this like a super tight series, because I think that Boston is the better offensive team with more firepower, and I think Boston is the way better defensive team. This was a terrible matchup for the Knicks all year. They're really good, but they don't have the flexibility and the versatility needed to really compete with Boston's offense and to provide any resistance. So I think it's very possible that the Magic just played the Celtics tougher than the Knicks will. I'm going Celtics in 5. If this went 6, I wouldn't be shocked, but I'd be impressed. I'd be like, good for you, New York, because I just think that they are going to get ripped to shreds on the defensive end.
I've also got Celtics in 5.
Yeah.
I think Orlando's, and people may look at it and say, you know, the Knicks have more firepower and punch, and obviously they do, but when we're talking about the playoffs, it comes much more down to matchups, and Orlando has consistently been great at defending Boston, and I think that's more important, and Boston is like literally like they're a historically great offense in terms of what they do and the shots that they generate and how easy they make it look. I'm with you, man. If the Celtics, if the Knicks can push 6, I'll be impressed with them, and I'll consider it a dub. And let me ask you something. Let me ask you something about the Knicks. Fully healthy last year, who poses more of a threat to this Celtics team? Last year's group or this year's?
That's an interesting
question. Because you have
question.
Hartenstein, you have Robinson, you have Randall. Like, again, that's why I say fully healthy. But, DiVincenzo is still there. Like, I definitely prefer the depth. I just don't know if it's a better matchup still.
That's a really interesting question. I guess it kind of depends on, like, is Julius Randle going to defend like we saw him in this past series, or like the version the Knicks got of him defensively? But I do think that was certainly a better defensive group, especially in this specific matchup. There's more of an offensive burden on Brunson. I think it would be a serious long shot either way, but I would say that team had a better chance, at least, of making this more of a series on the defensive end. But they didn't have Mikal, obviously, so it's not a significant difference in either way, in my opinion. And I do think, like, this fundamental roster construction with Cat as your defensive anchor, as your center, and Brunson being out there as such a liability as a small guard in this matchup where their mismatch attacking is so elite, like, they are going to exploit those guys so easily that I don't see the path to how New York can even get better than this Boston team without making major changes. Like, until this Boston team breaks up.
Well, I was going to say, like, what if after Porzingis leaves?
Well, then that's a different story. But still, I wouldn't feel good about them. Because, like, even though I think Porzingis is going to have a really good series, it's not like he is necessary for Boston to dominate. Like, if he's still struggling shooting, like you were talking about, cool, man. I'm going with Al Horford, and he's going to be getting the same great pick and pop looks, and now we're super switchable defensively. Like, you're really not going to lose your key advantages, even if a guy like KP isn't out there on the floor, even though I do think that he should be significantly better in this series than he was in the last. Good for the Knicks, man. Really good team. Amazing first-round series. Boston is just a juggernaut, and the Knicks are not the team that is built to give them a hard time.